This probably will not come as a big surprise to many of you, but I am a big podcast guy. I live about a half hour away, so I have a lot of driving time. I listen to, of course, a few podcasts about the Gators or about Chelsea. But the one I've been into most recently is called The Rest is History. Two British professors, history professors, talk about a wide range of topics. I just this week finished listening to a series about America in 1968. I listened to one about the Magna Carta, about the 100 Years' War. On my way back from the Hillel Conference in Boston last month, I listened to an episode that this podcast did, these two professors did, about the rise of the Nazis and the way in which the Nazi Party implemented its ideology in the pre-war years. And something that these professors said stuck with me. And in case you want to listen to this episode later, the episode was released on January 14th, 2024, and is part 5 of the Nazis in Power series. One of the professors, Tom Holland, not that Tom Holland, but he is also British, I guess, right? He's talking about the Nazis' ideology. He says, I wanted to quote this directly. I went and looked at the transcript. And I think they have an internally coherent morality. And even though what they do has become the absolute epitome of evil, I think that they serve for us as the embodiment of evil. They do not see themselves as evil. In fact, just the opposite. They see themselves as doing what they're doing for the good of Germany. So I want us to marinate in that for a second. A lot of the time, I'm driving, I listen to a podcast, and sometimes the words are background noise to whatever's going on in my head. I'm thinking about work or thinking about what's going on at home. But these sentences stuck with me as I'm sort of grappling with what's going on in our society, what's going on in our sort of general political sphere. In 10 days, we are going to inaugurate a new president of the United States. The election that ended in November, not too long before the end of the semester, was, as you know, I don't have to tell you, incredibly contentious. And whether you supported Vice President Harris or President Trump, chances are that you had negative feelings, not only about the other candidate, that's pretty normal, but crucially, and this is what I want to get at tonight, about the other candidate's supporters. If someone tells you that they openly supported whichever side you did not, I imagine, you can tell me I'm wrong, that you immediately form opinions about that person and may shut down dialogue altogether. And now I want to be clear before I move on, because I see some skeptical faces. This is not to say that we should or have to agree with everyone. There are beliefs that are abhorrent to us, for example, the Nazis. We should not brush those aside for some goal of everyone getting along. That's not unity. What that is capitulation. But the reality is that we 350 million or so Americans, I actually didn't look at the population when I was writing this, I'm assuming that's about right. We have to live with one another. And it's very possible that the events of the next 4 years are going to cause us to become ever more siloed, cut off from anyone outside our bubble. We can dig into the realities in which we live and refuse any sort of connection with anybody else. We can all exist in our own worlds. And I think that would be a mistake with tragic and potentially fatal consequences for the country. I believe very strongly that disagreement is healthy. This is a complex world, and very, very few issues, again, I guess that the Holocaust was bad, have such an obvious solution or obvious agreement that all citizens would be in lockstep. But we need to be able to argue and fight without ruining the fabric of our society. The way I sort of internalize it, and I thought of this as the metaphor, is, look, I'm a big football fan. I was a football coach. And coaching staffs spend hours and hours each week understanding the tendencies and the strategy and the philosophy behind whatever the other team is doing. Presumably that's what Ryan Day did for Steve Sarkisian and vice versa. We got 52 minutes until that game kicks off. I suggest that we need to approach our country's issues the same way. We have to understand why everyone is believing what they do. Part of this was triggered in my head by a conversation at the Hillel conference. A rabbi was saying, a female rabbi was saying, what is wrong with men? Are men okay? And first of all, to the extent anybody's okay. But I think the important point is, it was said by another fellow rabbi, that a lot of people who have beliefs we don't agree with We have to remember, they don't think they're wrong. Just because they believe something else does not mean that they think they are wrong. And so what I want us to strive first and foremost to do as we move into this spring 2025 semester is to assume that the people with whom we live and with whom we study and with whom we pray are acting with good intentions. We may not like these intentions or these goals or these beliefs, but to think that anybody who has these different viewpoints is acting irrationally or needs to be corrected every time we come in contact with them will only lead to further division and further enmity. Or in other words, when you want the other side to lose more than you want to win, you've already lost. Shabbat Shalom and Happy New Year.